The sad and devastating news is that these toxic PFAS chemicals that are in our drinking water will persist longer than my lifetime, and perhaps even my kids' lifetime. So remediation needs to be immediate. Steps need to be taken immediately. Legislation needs to be passed immediately to address the problem and find the long-term solutions so everyone can have safe drinking water.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming. We just got done with a very helpful meeting here locally with a variety of conservation coalition members here in the state of Wisconsin and locally, and Jen might introduce everyone that was available today, along with some of the local reps too. Josh Johnson, the recently elected town chair here in the town of Campbell, Lee, who's been on the board too here in the town of Campbell, Maureen Friedland, the La Crosse County Board. And in a little bit, I'm going to head downtown to my office to have another meeting with some of the local leaders to deal with the PFAS issue. This really is an all-hands-on-deck moment, and it's going to require, I believe, a very strong partnership at the federal, state, and local level to address it, to keep people safe, and then to find a long-term solution for it. There are hot spots throughout the state of Wisconsin, throughout the nation. And so I'm sponsoring legislation at the federal level to establish good scientific standards and also an action plan on grants that would be made available to local communities on how to address it, whether it's further testing, comprehensive testing that I think is needed, short-term water needs for residents impacted, and then a solution to get PFAS out of harm's way and keeping people safe.
This has had an effect on me in a lot of ways, not only as the town chair, which I just want to make it explicitly clear that as a local government, we're on the front lines of this. And since we've been elected, we've been pushing as fast as we can to make sure that we're on the right track so that when we get the opportunity to implement a solution, we have one and we're not waiting around for one. But this doesn't just affect me as the leader of the town. I have a lot of family that lives on French Island. I'm actually a third generation of French Island. My grandparents moved here in the late 60s, early 70s. My dad was born and raised here. I was born and raised here. And now I have nieces and nephews that live here. A lot of the stuff that I do and that our tourism industry revolves around is water. And water is a finite resource, and we can't afford to contaminate it all because, I mean, your body's 66% water. I mean, you contaminate so much of it, there's none left. You can't sustain life. This isn't something that we can afford to kick down the road, and I think that Representative Kind's proposed legislation is a great step in the right direction to getting this remediated.
The impact on the lives, as Josh said, it affects everybody here every single day. I can't go for a walk down the street without being stopped and asked questions. The biggest thing for people to know is that PFAS knows no boundaries. When it's in the ground and it's in the groundwater, it's going to be there forever. There's currently no technology to completely eradicate it. When we say forever chemical, we really mean forever. Events that took place as long as 50 years ago are still impacting and poisoning our residents today. If you look at the town of Campbell PFAS contamination map, you see that neighborhoods and their wells are just saturated with this contamination. Our neighbors are affected. My children are affected. Our loved ones and our friends who live within blocks of the building where we stand today have either died of cancer or spent their childhood fighting it. Safe drinking water is basic human need.
The reality is, in communities all across this country, we are not testing for PFAS. So while there is a serious issue here in French Island, and we know of 60 other communities in Wisconsin, most notably Peshtigo and Marinette, most communities do not know that their water is safe to drink. And so we are very grateful to Congressman Kind for his federal legislation, the PFAS Action Plan, and also to President Biden for giving us this historic opportunity to provide the funding that communities need to be able to address PFAS contamination when it happens. And so we are proud to be a part of a coalition with Wisconsin Environment, National Wildlife Federation, Midwest Environmental Advocates, League of Women Voters, and the Blue-Green Alliance to push for congressional action to pass the Americans Jobs Plan, of which there's $20 billion to help communities deal with PFAS remediation. Every person in Wisconsin and around the country deserves to turn on their tap and know the water's safe to drink. So thank you, again, Congressman Kind, for all your leadership on this.
Great, thanks, Jen. Listen, I think it's pretty clear that nothing is more frightening for a family or a community than knowing there's contaminants in the water that can harm your children, your family, your neighbors, and that's what we face here with PFAS.